Hello everybody, welcome to Christies. I am Nick Grimshaw. I'm joined by a specialist from Christies, Christian.
Hello everybody.
And we are going to give you a tour of the George Michael collection, which is open now. So Christian, I thought we'd start with, I guess, the most iconic piece in the collection that's on the front of the brochures and we've seen advertised. Tell me all about this Damien Hirst piece. What do you think it is that George fell in love with when he saw this?
So we're starting into a journey George Michael did between 2005 and 2009 of collecting contemporary art. And this is Damien Hirst, The Incomplete Truth, 2007. And what you're seeing is a dove in a formaldehyde. What he represents, it bridges between religion and humanity. It bridges between hope, freedom, and incarceration. But in George Michael's view, what he thought was his white spirit, his desire of breaking boundaries, his desires of freeing himself from the incarceration of humanity. So his desire of creativity.
And it's, I mean, I've only ever seen this, you know, in pictures. It's incredible to see. It's so striking when you get to see it in real life. And it's like, you know, we were saying about the freedom, literally had a song called Freedom, and this is a bird, a dove, which represents freedom, trapped, which I guess was at the crux of George's life. It was something that he often spoke about.
Exactly, and it's funny because the title of the piece is not neither Freedom nor White Dove. It's literally, it's called The Incomplete Truth, which very much sits at the heart of, if you listen to George Michael's lyrics, he always tells a story. And it's the same, the whole collection, especially the young British artists, they do tell the stories through the titles of their works. So in this case, exactly the same, The Incomplete Truth. And if we go from this work, the Damien Hirst, into the next one, which is the Tracey Emin, Tracey Emin's piece, Drunk to the Bottom of My Soul, tells exactly the same story. So Tracey was the link between George Michael and collecting. Right. Tracey was the one who completely just exploded in George Michael's and Kenny Ghost because they collected together live. And she was the one, she was the hurricane who engaged in George Michael and Kenny Ghost's collecting art. Her piece is like a poem, in all honesty. Because she was a poet, she was a writer to start with, and she was writing her memoirs, she was writing about her ups and downs, she was writing about her life. And every single piece from this exhibition, from this collection, could have been easily one of George Michael's songs. So Tracey Emin, Drunk to the Bottom of My Soul, and then next door we've got Bridget Riley, Songbird, and then we've got another Tracey Emin called The Hurricane, or you've got Harold Miller called The Incurable Romantic. So every single piece could have easily been one of George Michael's songs. So this is extraordinary because not many of us knew George Michael as an art collector. We knew George Michael as a singer, a songwriter, a composer, a choreographer. I mean, you know infinitely better than me when it comes to music. But few of us knew him as an art collector.
I never knew that, and I never knew that he was a big art fan. But it was. I saw on a documentary where Tracey talked about her first time she met George.
Yes.
And she had just finished art school and she was doing a painting.
Yes.
And she was like left in a house.
Yes.
And she was left in a house to do a painting and the owner said, don't let this person in. Whoever knocks at the door, don't let anyone in. Yeah. And the person who kept knocking on the door was George Michael.
Exactly. So very funny story. So she was doing a commission in a collector's house, and the collector said, "Listen, you can stay at my house," because she didn't have place to stay probably. And she said, "But don't open the door. No matter who's gonna knock at the door or please let me in, don't do it." So one night, somebody knocks at the door. She completely dismisses the whole idea. Knock again. I mean, the person was quite persuasive. And then suddenly she looks through the window or through the door, and this person said, please let me in. I said, no, I can't do it. You don't understand. I'm not allowed to do it. And the person, but do you know who I am? And she said, I don't, and I don't care because I'm not going to let you in. I said, but I'm George Michael. Anyway, she completely dismisses the whole thing. She didn't. She didn't. And then I think 2 years later on, must have been at the Ivy restaurant, George was with Kenny having dinner, and then Tracey was at the other table, and George went to Tracey and says, to remember me. I was the mad one knocking at the door and you wouldn't let me in.
Amazing.
And that was the moment when the whole thing started with such a force, the friendship between them.
But they're quite similar, I think, in that they were very sort of honest and exposing in their works, weren't they? Like they've never shied away from being honest about the good things and the bad things.
Yeah, I think there are very few people in life who have no fear in expressing the demons they go through. There are very few artists who have this incredible genius of writing, of painting, of acting, the humanity. And I think both George Michael and Tracey Emin had this possibility, and they had no fear in doing it. So Tracey writes about her incredible ups, but she writes very beautifully about her incredible downs. And so was George Michael through his lyrics, through his songs.
I guess that's why they both connect to so many people.
Exactly.
Talk to me about this, Bridget Riley.
So this is a very special piece, I mean, very personal special piece for George Michael, because it's called Songbird. It's in 1982. And this canvas was in George Michael's house in Dallas, sitting above the chimney. So literally he lived with this piece. It was a joyful work of art he was very happy to embrace and to live with.
We're going to talk about the Craig Martins next. There's 3 pieces here, and these very, striking pieces. We've got the toilet, we've got sex, and we've also got handcuffs, which we'll take a look at in a second. But I mean, huge pieces. They're saying a lot, and they're saying a lot about both the artist and also George.
Yes. Well, they're saying one thing, and it's sense of humor. I mean, we all know what happened at some point in George Michael's life, Los Angeles, in a park, and what he did, he got arrested for a few hours. And instead of going down the hill emotionally and psychologically and all that jazz, he twisted the whole idea of a horror into humor. So he went back into art, and he found possibility into art. And went to Michael Craig Martin, because all 3 of them are done by Michael Craig Martin, which we have to say was the professor, the teacher of all these Goldsmith students, like Damien Hirst, Tracey Emin, Sarah Lucas, Angus Fairhurst, Anya Galacio. And he reached back to him, and he created poetry, he created possibility, he created freedom and life and light from art. So instead of being morbidly depressed, got these 3 pieces and created a triptych. A triptych of fun, of humor.
And also him as him as a musical artist at that time, like he turned that moment around into being something really humorous, and also like an amazing record as well. Like some of his outside, one of the best records. Are we going to take a look at the portrait of George, which I love so much?
This is a 2007 portrait. This was a commission which George Michael did of himself, and there's another piece which Kenny Ghost did of himself. And what it is, Michael Craig Martin never had the fear of being a pioneer in material, in terms of he started with the conceptual art, and then he carried on with acrylic on canvas, and then at some point he broke the boundaries of introducing technology and introducing LCDs and TVs and creating a program, a software, which actually a portrait of somebody is being played on a TV screen. What's incredible about this piece, there is no two colors similar. So the colors keep on changing. There's no two colors similar. So it's incredible, smart permutation of
I watched it for a while earlier. It's really hypnotic. What do you think that the collection altogether says about George and Kenny as well as our fans?
It says it's a very smart collection, and it shows a British window in cultural and arts in England in 1990s and 2000. It's exactly what it is. It's what happened in Britain in these 2 decades. And he collected in depth. So it's not one or two pieces. It's not about money. It's not about the value. It's about literally what happened in British art cultural society in those 2 decades.
Yeah, it felt like a very exciting time for British art.
Yes,
And
yes,
those
because
artists
everything was about Europe, everything was
Yeah.
about America. But suddenly you've got these young kids, 1988, with Damien Hirst doing the exhibition Freeze, and the whole art world explodes, and everybody talks about Britain, everybody talks about London, and everybody talks about Goldsmith, and
Yeah.
everybody talks about the madness of
Yeah.
these people. And why he did that? Because he embraced these kids, because they were rebels.
Yeah.
And you know, I think he did a song or not which taps into the rebellion
Right.
of himself
Yeah.
as a musician.
Yeah.
Yes, and another aspect which very few of us knew, the Goldsmith gang was a very, very united family. So they cared about one each other. Even though they are various artists and they have to forge their own existence, they were there at the good times and bad times.
Yeah.
And I think George Michael related to that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The sense of unity,
the
the
same
sense of
spirit,
family.
I think.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
We're going to go and take a look in here now, and this is really, really quite something. Do you want to come and take a look with me? This is the iconic chair from the Fast Love video. Behind it, there's all different bits of footage. Some you might have seen, some's never been seen before, so you should come down and check it out because it's incredible footage. But this chair, I remember seeing in the Fast Love video. And George Michael was one of those artists that was always celebrated in my family home. You know, like I was into George Michael,
Yes.
my mum and dad were, my brother was, my sister was. And I think that's a rarity. There's not that many artists that I think that can unite a family of all different generations. But I remember seeing this music video with the rain and him on the chair in like the purple suit and getting all wet. And I just remember it being wild and
Yeah.
so sexy and,
Yeah.
and so cool to see. And he just like, you know, he really defined a specific moment of my childhood, I think, when I saw that video. So it's quite surreal
It's funny.
seeing the chair.
Can I tap into your memories? Because for me, it has the same kind of. I grew up in communist Romania, Transylvania, and the only way to bridge between those times in 80s and the beginning of 90s, between a very closed wall of existence and Western world where everything was possibility, was through songs,
Right.
was through music. So I was listening to George Michael and I was listening to Madonna, and this is my memory in terms of the chair, but in terms of his videos. He allowed me to dream. He allowed all of us to dream, and he allowed us to explore possibilities. And did you know he was the first Western band who played in communist China?
No, I did not know
1985.
that. Wow. I didn't
1985, Wham! Yes, they played in China.
Oh,
The
wow.
first Western band ever.
Ever.
Yeah, ever.
That's a
exactly.
good fact,
Yeah, yeah.
Christian. Okay, well we're gonna take a look downstairs. We're gonna replace Christian. Thank you, Christian.
Pleasure, everybody.
With Christian's colleague Paola. Hi, Paola. How are you?
I'm
Are
good.
Thank you for joining us.
Please,
so we're
my
gonna take
pleasure.
a walk down
Yes.
these stairs now.
Yes.
And there's projections on the stairs of Listen Without Prejudice, which was one of
Yes.
George's most important albums, one of his favourites as well.
Exactly.
And different sections of Christies have been broken up to represent his 4 favourite albums, which is super cool.
Exactly.
But we're going to take a walk through here and take a look at some of the neons
Yes.
in the collection, because I think these are really exciting for everybody to see who's watching. And quite a lot of neons as well,
Exactly.
like quite a vast collection. Should we start with the Tracey Emins?
Of course. You know, these are probably my favorite works in the collection because it really represents the connection that he had with Tracey. These are such intimate portraits of herself because they're shaped in her handwriting, so which makes it super personal. And these are kind of like notes about herself, about her, you know, her love for George and their kind of relationship with each other. And what's really great about these neons is that it's also a picture of Tracey's childhood in Margate. So she worked at a sex shop. There's the neons from the fairground. So this is very much like something that she would see every day. And using that in her poetry, because she is very much a poet, she would create these neons, which I find super fun.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about with these because it's the
Exactly.
simplicity of handwriting combined with like the in-your-face sort of visceral neon.
Exactly.
And also like some of it, like you say, is really personal and really delicate, and
Yeah.
some of it is stuff that we probably probably can't show on a Facebook Live, but quite graphic as well.
Yeah.
But you know, what was interesting, I thought, was that you mentioned about Tracey being a poet. That George said that he saw himself as a writer first.
Exactly.
And I think that's, I guess, why we all sort of connected with him, because that was at the heart of what he did.
Exactly. And I think that's why they also connected so well together, because in his collection overall, he has 14 works of Tracey Emin. It's kind of the largest collection of a single artist. And he really had this huge connection with her, and I think because they were both kind of vulnerable poets, and they really connected in a different way than everyone else. And I think you could really see that in his collection, because he has her across all different mediums. Yeah.
I think what's interesting about them both as well is that they were both, I don't know, they were both like political, and they both had stuff to say.
Exactly.
But they were never preachy, they were never like pompous. I think that they're both as well quite personable. I feel like that, you know, as successful and as famous both Tracey and George are, I feel like if you saw them in the pub, you could say hi to them. And certain artists, both pop and, you know, actual artists, you feel like, oh, I couldn't dare say hi to them. But I don't know, they had that thing of being super successful and political as well in their viewpoints and their statements, but also quite personable and vulnerable as well.
Exactly. I think it goes in saying for both George's music and Tracey's works is that they both have this kind of intimate aspect, that as if they're speaking to you personally.
Totally,
And, you know, if you look at George's music, all of his songs kind of fit a different point in your life, or they can kind of relate to any type of mood. You can switch them on if you're sad or happy or want to wake up or, you know, anything. And I think that goes as well with Tracey's work. It's quite personal.
And I think both, you know, unconsciously doing that. Whereas I think certain artists are like, I'm going to make this, I'm going to do that so that you feel like that. I think George is sort of just, this is sort of reflective of him. He's so honest. I think that's why we feel like that.
Exactly.
We're going to finish by taking a look at this, which is incredible. And I remember from the Freak video. So these have never really been seen. I think there's three different looks from the Freak video here.
Exactly.
And they're just wild, aren't they? They're really, really crazy.
They haven't been shown for 20 years.
Right.
So this is really an exceptional moment to kind of see these in the flesh. And I mean, it's a mixture of kind of futuristic, Blade Runner, you know, there's sexy at the same time, naughty. It's all that you want.
Yeah. Because that could be, I went to see an exhibition at the RA where it was like old warrior stuff, the Oceana exhibition. And it was sort of like this incredible, like old sort of handmade armor. I mean, it could be from like that time or like the future, like you say. It's nuts.
It
really is quite something. Well, thank you guys. We're going to leave you here. Make sure you come and check it out at Christies. It's free. The art isn't free. The entry is free. But yeah, come and check it out because it's incredible.
Thank you so much.
Let's go and look around more, Paola. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.